Hey there, and welcome to another episode of One Email, Two Takes. I'm Will Allred. I'm usually joined by my co-host, Christina Finsath. But if you haven't been here before, what we do is we take an email that we've either received or have been asked to give feedback on. We break it down, we do the classic teardown, but we also provide our two takes on how we would rewrite it if we were in their shoes. And so you can sort of get a glimpse as to how we think about email writing. A quick intro on who I am and why you should care about my rewrite. I'm Will Allred. I'm one of the co-founders at a company called Lavender. It's a Chrome extension that helps thousands of sales reps write better emails faster. We see millions of emails every month. And so one of the awesome parts of my job is I get to share all the cool stuff that we're learning from your writing. And so this week, the big learning that I'm going to talk about is the length of your email, because we have a wonderfully personalized email this week. I'm going to share my screen so you can see it, but it's a little wordy. And one of the reasons it is so wordy is because of all of the different points of personalization that are brought into this message. So I'll read it out loud. Hi, I'll just say my name. Hi, Will. Just read your article on companies transition into a decentralized organization. Fully agree with your point that it's the prerogative of a company to meet the expectation of workers. Correct me if I'm wrong. With the current job market and COVID, employees expect health benefits from the employer. Given that your company has employees in 4+ countries, local insurances can get tricky, bringing in a variety of coverage and paperwork. Our company helps solve that with a single health insurance for the entire team, no matter the location. Interested in learning more? Best, a sales rep. P.S. Congrats on being the #1 French scale-up to work for in terms of well-being. Looking forward to working with you towards #1 in Europe. Now, you'll see here, I left a little note that it's about 121 words. What we're seeing in our data right now is that the best emails are written between 25 and 50 words. And by best, I mean it's a cold email and it's got the best chance of getting a response. And if you think about it, it actually pairs up really nicely with how people behave in the inbox. So what we've seen is the average amount of time that someone reads an email is around 11 seconds. And so if you think about where that pairs up from a word count perspective, it fits right into the best practice. So 11 seconds of reading, 25 to 50 words. Now, why is this email so long? The big thing is there's multiple points of personalization that are getting thrown in here. And it works for this note, right? But I'm going to try to keep with that theme of personalization. I'm going to try to keep with the same logic, but show you that you don't have to say nearly as much. Like decentralized org, bringing in this company quote, like you don't have to quote the person. They just need to know that you understood what they were trying to get across, versus just pulling in the quote doesn't necessarily show that you get that. Now, I do love the correct me if I'm wrong language. I think that's a fantastic way to soften some assumptions. But that said, current job market and COVID, those are kind of like cliche phrases that'll probably throw you into their mental spam filter. Given that the company has 4 employees in 4+ countries, local insurances can get tricky. I like that word tricky, kind of stands out. But a lot of this is just wordy. Some of the phrasings are a little awkward, but I do have a good sense for what they provide. That's honestly not the easiest thing to say for every email that I see. And it's a pretty simple CTA. I don't know if this PS is necessary. It's warm and friendly though. So in my rewrites, I didn't keep it. That said, let's talk about what I did for my rewrites. So I kept it the same theme for my first one. So I started with, Will, read your article on companies transition, an interesting point on employee expectations. See how I didn't use the quote, I just kind of mentioned what they were talking about. The challenge that employees don't see is how hard it is to meet those expectations. So I'm kind of showing them that I get them, right? I'm I kind of get what you're talking about. I get what you go through trying to meet these expectations. And then I transition into just look at health benefits. With employees in 4 countries, I don't need to explain how tricky, see how I use tricky, I like that word, local health insurance can get. We solidified that into a single health plan. Makes life a lot easier for your team. Open to checking it out. Now, I was able to get this down to 71 words, but one of the key things that I was trying to keep alive in my rewrite was the flow of logic, because I actually appreciated that from the first one. So you'll see it up here. I'm going to scroll up. So I start with the observation, which is I was reading your article about moving the organization into being decentralized. I imagine that means remote, but like it's kind of vague. Fully agree with your point. So I use that. That's my first paragraph here. Then correct me if I'm wrong, with the current job market and COVID, employees expect health benefits from the employer. So I rephrased that and I made it a little bit more relatable for the end reader, which is like the thing that employees don't see is it's kind of hard to meet those expectations. Just look at health benefits. And then I talk about the employees over 4 countries, and then how challenging it can be. So I speak to that personalization point that they woven in there, which is you have employees in 4 different countries. And I've brought it up as a challenge that they're likely facing. Then I bring up the solution. Same framework as above, just reworded to be a lot more simple. Open to checking it out. Now, I like this. It's shorter. It's more likely to get a response. If you look at like the reply rate graph, it basically does like a downward slope going from 25 to 50 to 75 to 100. So this has a better chance at getting a response. It's also just simpler phrasings, keeps the same logic, but we can make this simpler. And one of the keys to simplifying is recognizing that you're going to have multiple bats. Not most emails don't get a reply, right? And so thinking about that, how can we spread these personalization nuggets across multiple touch points within a cadence? We could potentially even do this across like 5 different touch points. But the point is, I took this note, the same points that I've highlighted here, and I spread them across multiple outreaches. So let's start with the first one. For this one, I focused strictly on the observation and went straight for the pain. I didn't talk about any article that they published. I just went straight for, this is probably a problem in your day-to-day job, as opposed to relying on that personal information to drive the open. So notice your team is multinational. If you're managing health benefits locally, I imagine this can be tedious. We've built a single health plan for international teams. Great coverage with easier admin. Open to checking it out. Now, you can read that in like 10 seconds, and you understand very quickly exactly what it is that this company provides and why they provide it. So, starts with, I see that you have multiple team members in different countries. If you're trying to do this locally, it's a pain. We have this, solves that problem. Open to checking it out. That's got a better chance of getting a response, just looking at the numbers. Now, you can then follow up with some more of that personal information. So why don't we follow up with the article? Hey, person so-and-so, great points on employee expectations in your recent article. You could flip that too. You could say, in your recent article, you made some great points about employee expectations. The phrasing is not the most important thing here. I'm willing to bet health benefits are a top expectation. With a team across 4 countries, has this created admin hurdles for you? So instead of going direct on that pain, what I'm doing is I'm now softening my approach. And I'm trying to just generate dialogue, because this one here is very like concrete to the point. And so if that didn't work, I'm going to soften my stance, and I'm just going to say, hey, has this created admin hurdles for you? And then my third version, I can do a hybrid between the two. I can bring up, given you've been listed as the #1 French employer, it's clear to me that employee expectations, yada, yada, right? I can start to weave in these different touch points, these different pieces, so that my individual touch points don't get terribly wordy, but it's clear as I continue to follow up that I've obviously done my research, done my homework, and they're personalized. And since I would respond to every single one of these messages within the same thread, they would, scroll down naturally and see that I've done my homework across the entire thread. That said, even if they don't scroll down, I still have, every single touch point having something about it that is either relevant or personalized and can be, assumed to strike up its own conversation in its own right. So that's to say, hopefully as y'all are thinking through your own outreach, I hope that you're doing this personalization research. Just recognize that it doesn't all have to go into the same email. You can use it across the sequence and get some more mileage out of your research. Now, I'm hoping that next week I've got my co-host back and in action. We've been missing her here. But if you haven't already, subscribe to Sales Hacker, because we do these every single week, and we're trying to continue to do them and continue to offer feedback and options for folks to get creative with their outreach. So follow Sales Hacker. Hope you enjoyed this week, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.